My name's Martin MacIntyre. I'm originally from outside Glasgow, now living in Edinburgh.
Wel, bawd o'n rhaid beth chi'n not to do that the news of the courage to go nation. A long time ago there was a kind of a wealthy nobleman living near Edinburgh, and he was, as I say, quite a well-to-do fellow, and he also tended to travel quite far in the field, and he tended to travel throughout the world on sea voyages, and he was married and had 3 daughters, and wherever he travelled he never forgot his beautiful wife and his 3 daughters, and he liked to bring them and spoil them with particularly nice presents when he would be away. And indeed, I think few would dispute that when his wife in particular would dress up in her finery, if there was any woman who could meet her in beauty, they must be few and far between, and certainly he felt he'd never seen such a person. On this one particular voyage he came back and had lovely presents for the 3 daughters, but he turned to his wife and he said, "I think I've got something really special for you just now." And she said, "What's that?" he said. And he lifted a cloth, and there underneath the cloth was a chest, no ordinary chest, one beautifully crafted. I mean, you couldn't, by looking at it and inspecting it closely, begin to think where the carpenters had begun and where they'd finished. And she said, "Oh, that's absolutely gorgeous." She said, "I can keep my best clothes in the chest." He said, "No," he says, "Haricko less, you don't need to." He said, "Open the chest and see what's inside." So guskily he just opened the chest. He said, "Put your hand in and see what you find." She put her hand in. She immediately pulled out a dress made of bird plumage, and it was gorgeous. She says, "Wow," she said, "I've never seen anything like this." He said, "Good laving Turisha Tuluginja. Put your hand in the chest, there's more in it, there's more in the chest." So she did that, and the second time she did, she pulled out another dress, and this dress was made of Canach Idlave, bog cotton, and again it was exquisite. And she went for her 3rd time, she pulled out a 3rd dress, and that dress was made of starlight. A Tuluginja, or says, "There's more, look, there's more in the chest." And she went in again to the depths of the chest, and this time pulled out 2 shoes, one made of gold, the right one made of gold, and the left one made of silver. "There's more," he said. She went into the chest, at the very bottom of the chest, she pulled out a exquisitely designed comb. "Keith the helm," he said, "comb your hair." So she combed her hair, on the right side and the left side, and the right side was left golden, and the left side was left silver. And she dressed in one of the dresses. I think it was the one of bird's plumage that first night, and nobody would dispute her beauty, and she felt just like a queen. She was a noble woman, but she felt like a queen dressed in these dresses. But as time went on, unfortunately she became ill, and in a relatively short period of time she died. The nobleman was much vexed by this situation, and he had his 3 daughters to bring up, and how was he going to manage? And he managed for a while, but then he felt, "No, I need another wife to look after my daughters." But he was just absolutely convinced, and in fact he gave an oath that his 2nd wife would have to bear as close a resemblance to his original wife as possible. So he sent an edict out through the land for every woman to come and try on the golden shoe on her right foot, and many a woman came from all over the land, didn't fit any of their feet, and he sent the invitation a bit wider, and again they came, tried on the golden shoe on the right foot, and again it wouldn't go on anybody's foot. There were only 3 women left in the whole of the land who hadn't tried on the shoe, his own 3 daughters. The oldest daughter tried it on, but her toes, the kind of shape of her toes were too long and too wide, and it wouldn't go on. And the middle daughter tried it on, and again the sort of the back of her heels was sort of, just not the right shape. But when the youngest daughter tried on the golden shoe, you would have thought it had been made for her foot. Well, she was absolutely distraught and distressed at the prospect of having to marry her own father, so she took to her bed, and she was there all that afternoon and much of the next day, crying at the prospect of having to marry her father, and all that went with that. When she heard this noise, a faint noise initially, but then just growing in volume, a sort of a lowing noise outside the window. She went to the window and looked out, and there was this little brown calf. And the little brown calf said to her, "Do you care to me? What's wrong with you, girl?" She said, "I've got the golden shoe fitted my right foot. I've got to marry my father, and it's not right, it's not proper." She said, "Ish," she said, "you don't have to do that," she said. "You come with me," she said, "and I'll take you to another place where you won't be bound by these commitments." "Will I take anything else with me?" She said. "No," she said, "just yourself and your mother's chest." "I don't know where my mother's chest is," she said to the little calf. She said, "I do," she said. And she told her where the chest was, to go down a particular stair, and there was a cupboard, and go through that cupboard door, and then there was another door, and the chest was behind there. So she did that. She got the chest, and she climbed out the window, and she jumped on the little calf's back. She made sure that the chest was quite secure so that it wouldn't fall to the ground, and off they went. And they travelled for 3 days, through moorland and mountain and town and city, some quite exotic places and some really quite ordinary, until on the 3rd night they arrived on the outskirts of this particular small town. "Hik for my gromel finished," said the calf. "Get off my back now," she said, "and we'll bury the chest." And they did that. They were just at this little hillock, and she came off the calf's back, and they buried the chest under the hillock. And the calf said to her, "Like in a Lowhorst, do you see the palace over there?" "Yes," she said. "I want you to go to the palace door, and any work that they offer you, they're accepted, no matter what it is." So she went up to the door, and one of the footmen opened the door, and she said, "Have you got any work available?" And he said, "Well, it's funny," he says, "today we do, because one of the scullery girls absconded this morning, and in fact we have got a vacancy down in the deepest regions of the palace, in a place called the Kitchen 2, the Black Kitchen. And you okay at cleaning pots and pans and that kind of thing?" "Wow," she said, "I'll give it a go." But when she got down to the very, very bottom of the palace, and the door was open, what a sight for this young noble girl that had never done very much with her hands except embroidery and those kind of fine things. Her place was absolutely packed full of pots and pans, and she was there scrubbing and scouring all that day, and then for many days after that. It wasn't long until her fine clothes were in rags, and she was covered in grease and covered in dirt. And it was a custom in this particular place that once a year the king's son, the fine prince, would have a ball, and he would invite all the noble people round about, all those who were fitting to attend such an event. And this year was no different, and it came to the time for the prince to have his ball, and everybody was invited, and some of them came in just fine coaches to the ball, and it was up at the very near the top of the castle, and it was been going for a wee while, I'm sure. And of course the youngest girl was still in there scrubbing her pots and pans. She heard this noise at the window, a small, gentle, lowing noise. She went to the window, and who was it but the little brown calf? "Why didn't you go to the... Why didn't you go to the ball?" "I'm not going to go to a ball like this," she said. I'm an absolute mess." She says, "No, you're not," she said. Give yourself a little wash," she said, "and then come with me." So she did so. She gave herself a wee wash, and jumped in his back, went back to the hillock. He uncovered the chest, took it out, opened it up, and he said, "Put on one of your dresses." And that night she put on the dress of the bird's feathers, the bird's plumage, and she put on the golden shoe on the right foot and the silver shoe on her left foot, and she combed her hair with a special comb. On one side of her head was gold, and the other side silver, and she went to the ball. And of course, as soon as she entered the ball, every single head in the place turned. Who was this woman that they'd never seen before? And so stunning. Of course, the prince himself, he was most captivated by her, and it didn't take him long to ask her to dance, and he danced a good few dances with her that night. But she had promised the little brown calf that at some point, getting towards the end of the night, but before it, the dance finished, she would just make a gentle exit without anybody knowing. And she did. The prince and everybody else's attention was elsewhere, and she just slipped out of the dance, and there he was waiting for her. Went back on his back and came back. They went to the little hillock. She took off her dress of fine feathers, put it into the chest, and they buried the chest again, and she was back in the black kitchen before the ball had even finished. Well, of course, the next day the prince, who was this woman, he just couldn't rest. He wouldn't get a minute's rest until he found out who she was. He'd never seen her before, and lots of other people were beginning to talk about her as well. But he wasn't going to wait a year to find out who she was, so he immediately announced there was going to be another ball that very night. Sort of an emergency ball. And of course, the same fan, everybody who had been at the original ball were invited to come to this one. And maybe a few others could come as well. But of course she was down scrubbing her pots as usual. She didn't go, and it was well started, and she was kind of looking at the moonlight and thinking about all these gentle folk upstairs, waltzing and dancing upstairs. Of course, what does she hear at the window? But the gentle, lowing sound indeed of the little brown calf. You didn't go to the ball tonight either. No, she says, I didn't. Come on, he says, I'll take you to the ball. So she goes out the window, jumps on his back. They go back to the hillock. They take out the chest, and this time she put on the dress that was made of cannacha drave, bog cotton, and she looked very nice. She looked very elegant tonight. She walked into the ball, and every head turned as they'd done the previous night, but maybe even a little more so. And the prince this time didn't waste any time. He was over to her immediately, and just, from as soon as she entered, he danced with her the whole night. But somehow, she managed to escape. Just a wee while before the ball was over, and again the little brown calf was waiting for her. Jumped on his back, and she was back in the kitchen too, in the black kitchen, before the ball had finished. So the prince is absolutely beside himself. He's no way he can wait any longer. He has to have a third night, a third ball and a third night. And of course he invites everybody who's been at the two previous balls, and of course she's, as she was before in the two previous evenings, she's down in the black kitchen with the pots, and the ball starts and she's not there, and of course the little brown calf comes to the window, and he says, come on, I'll take you to the ball, and she jumps on his back, and they go to the hillock, and this time she takes out the chest, and this time she dresses herself in the dress of starlight. And if she was beautiful the 2 nights previously, she's just absolutely exquisite this night. There aren't words to describe how beautiful she is. And as soon as she goes into the ball, there they are. The prince is there waiting for her, and of course all the other guests are expecting her as well, but they don't quite expect what they see that night. And the prince took her and held her close, and they danced and danced. But unbeknown to her, he had said to his 2 doormen, his 2 most trusted doormen, he said, she managed to escape the last 2 nights, he said. She will not escape tonight. I want her to stay with me forever, he says, from this night forth. And you are entrusted to make sure that she doesn't escape. You will just stand at that door, one on each side of the door, and don't let her through, because that's the only exit point, he said. And if she gets through, if she escapes, you'll have something waiting for you that you might not like. So, they're at the door, waiting, keeping a close, watchful eye on this beautiful woman, and they're waltzing and dancing, and just, the princes are just, as we say in Gaelic, the Shech in the 7 clouds. Delirious. But you see, she's doing all this vigorous dancing, you see, and she's building up quite a significant sweat. And as she'd promised the little brown calf in the previous nights, she would meet him at that, around, not a specific time, but, when she reckoned that, the ball was getting near the end, but without it actually, reaching its total crescendo, she would be there as usual. And somehow or other, she managed to get away from the prince, but when she got to the door, the 2 doormen were there. And they said, sorry, my lady, I think, you should stay here. She said, no, I've got to go, sorry, I've got to go. And she began to run through them, and they tried to grab her, but she was absolutely drenched in sweat, and they couldn't keep a hold of her. She got through them, and then one of them thought, oh my God, I'm a goner if I don't get this woman, And he made this huge leap after her, and grabbed onto her ankle as best he could, and he thought he had her. But her gold shoe came away, and she disappeared off. As usual, she jumped on the calf's back, and she was back in the kitchen too, the black kitchen, before the ball had finished. So when the prince came to the doorman and said, where is she? He said, don't know. I thought you were supposed to be, keeping a close eye on her. We were all the time, and we tried to retain her, we tried to detain her and retain her for you. Have you got anything to show for your effort, to prove that you did this? And they showed him the golden shoe. And that was enough to convince the prince that he wasn't going to put them to death or anything. Because in the end of the day, he had to admit that he'd failed to keep her as well. So anyway, he told them to disappear off, out of his sight for the moment. He had more important things to think about. And of course that was whose foot would fit the golden shoe. So he sent out a proclamation throughout the land. And they came from far and afield the following morning to try on the golden shoe. Women only. And of course it didn't fit any of these gentle female feet. And again he tried the next day, and again, no luck whatsoever. And there happened to be living in the neighbourhood a rather wily old woman called the Cailleach-na-Gairc, the hen maiden or the hen woman, and she had a daughter. And if the mother was a dodgy character and a despicable creature, her daughter was probably 1.5 times worse. So she says to her, we need to get this prince. She says, I think this is our opportunity. So she had a look at her daughter's foot, which of course, was never going to fit the shoe. So she got out her saw, cut off the tops of the toes, and got this rasp. File, what's the English for it?
File.
A rasp, and began to file back the ankle as well, until she took a good couple of inches off the back of the ankle and said, I think you might just manage now. She sent her up to the palace. The prince put the shoe on her foot, and he sort of wobbled it about a bit, and he says it's not a great fit, but I suppose it's a barely adequate fit. He was devastated, the poor guy. He had to end up marrying this despicable creature, but he made his promise, so he had to fulfil it. So it was a bit of a picture, a bit of a sight, to see the mighty prince and this despicable creature riding towards her house on top of his beautiful white stately steed, because he was heading to her house to ask her mother for her daughter's hand in marriage. But just when they were maybe about 20 yards from the house, who appears but this little bird? And the bird landed on just between on the horse's nose, between his 2 ears, and began to chirp and sing. And the more the prince listened to the chirping of the bird, the more he began to understand what the bird was saying. Casavici, casacrimi, the holo in the neck, casavici, casacrimi, the holo in the neck, chicken frog good, and chicken frog odd, could do a branach, so you can do. Clipped foot, nipped foot behind you on the horse. The one whose foot this shoe fits is sorrowful and sad in the black kitchen. When he understood the words of the little bird, he turned round to this despicable daughter of the Cailleach-na-Gairc, and he had a look at her. He said, "Can I see your foot, please?" And they're still on the horse at this point. She lifts up her shoe and he grabs the golden shoe from her foot, and yanks it off, and this blood and liquid and stuff, fluid begins to pour out of the shoe. Absolutely disgusting. And he turns round to her and says, "Oh, you despicable creature," he said, "you and your mother and your tricks." Takes her home immediately, throws her off the horse to her mother, and says to them both, "I want you both out of my kingdom before sunrise tonight." And presumably they did go, because he again lost no time and went straight to the black kitchen as instructed the little bird. And again, a bit like the daughter in a sense, he'd lived in the palace all his life, but he'd never ever been to this particular kitchen. Why would the prince have to go down to such a lowly place? All the way down to the black kitchen, and there was this girl in her rags, and this whole mound of pots in front of her. And he said to her, "Excuse me," he said, "would you mind trying on this shoe?" And she said, "Well, look at my feet, they're covered in dust and they're covered in muck." She said, I don't think it's very appropriate." He said, No, it's been a lot worse than that in it. He says, you don't have to worry." And she tried on the shoe. And of course it fitted her as if it had never ever been off her foot. So he said to her, would you marry me? She said, yes, I would. And he said, fine. He says, let's get married tomorrow. And this wedding was organised for the following day. And that night, rather than sleeping on the stone floor, which she had been previously in the black kitchen with just a very thin blanket on top of her, she was given a luxurious bed with 3 mattresses and a good couple of quilts on top. And she lay there in her bed. She was just lying there, just about to fall asleep on the pillow, when she heard a sound, a familiar sound that she'd heard. She didn't know she'd ever hear it again. She went to the window and there was a little brown calf. She said, hello, she said, Chitachar, how are you? She said, I didn't know I would see you again. I'm going to marry a prince tomorrow. She said, I'm so excited and I just wanted to share my news with you. And the little brown calf said, I know. She says, I'm very happy for you. She says, and that's why I've come tonight, she said, to wish you good luck and to wish you well. And this is the last time I'll come and see you, she said, because you don't need me really now. She said, I've been able to help you up until now. But from now on, you'll make your own way in the world. But I wanted to come and bid you farewell. Oh, thank you very much, little brown calf. You're just the dearest little brown calf that must exist in this world. She said, thank you very much, if that's true, she said. But I'm also somebody else. And can you guess who that might be? And the girl, I said, no, she said, I'm afraid I can't. She said, yes, to you I've been a little brown calf for these last few weeks, she said, but I'm also your mother. She stopped. My mother? She said, yeah, she said. I'm your mother. And I came back from the dead in the shape of a brown calf because it wasn't right for you to have to marry your father. That's not an appropriate thing for a young, beautiful girl to have to do. Oh, she says, well, thank you very much. And also, she said, you almost lost your prince there to Cailleach na Ngearc and her despicable daughter. She said, that would have been a bit of bad luck, she said. That wouldn't have been right either. So I came back just for a wee while there in the shape of a little bird to help you, she said. But now you're going to marry a prince tomorrow. You're going to be a princess and one day you'll be a queen. And you don't need my help anymore because you're going to live happily ever after. And apparently that's true. The following day there was this amazing wedding. Everybody was invited to the wedding who'd been at the balls and many others, and they had amazing food for the occasion. But unfortunately they didn't leave any of it for me.